The News Line.
Welcome back to People's TV. We bring you a major news update in today's broadcast. In our previous video, we discussed Romania's decision to purchase Iron Dome air defense units from Israel. The link is in the description if you missed it. Today's focus shifts to Slovenia. Slovenia has officially banned far-right Israeli cabinet ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich from entering the country. Foreign Minister Tanja Fajon declared them persona non grata on Thursday, noting that this is the first instance of such a move by a European Union member state. Itamar Ben-Gvir serves as Israel's Minister of National Security, while Bezalel Smotrich is the Minister of Finance. Both play significant roles in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition government. The Slovenian government imposed the ban citing controversial statements made by the two ministers. Even though neither has directly participated in combat operations in Gaza, they have not engaged in any form of practical warfare. Their involvement has been purely political. This decision appears to be highly unjustified and signals a growing wave of antisemitism in Europe, as well as a tendency among EU countries to capitulate to the demands of radical Islamist groups under the guise of opposing Islamophobia. Slovenia claims that the minister's remarks encourage genocide and violate the rights of Palestinian civilians. The ban was placed specifically due to their opposition to a ceasefire, even for the release of hostages. This stance resonates with nations such as Sri Lanka and Peru, which historically defeated terrorist groups like the LTTE and Shining Path. For example, Sri Lanka advocated for a political solution while firmly believing that terrorism must be eradicated because terrorists do not honor democratic processes or negotiations. A war is a war. Terrorists cannot be confronted with pacifist principles. Israel has, on multiple occasions, offered Hamas the chance to establish a Palestinian state, but Hamas and its predecessors have consistently rejected such proposals. All democratic nations should condemn Slovenia's move. Organizations and countries sympathetic to Hamas and Palestinian extremists have repeatedly failed to address the atrocities committed against Israeli civilians by suicide bombers, knife attackers, and gunmen. None of these groups condemned the October 7th attacks. They now call for a ceasefire while ignoring the fact that a ceasefire was already in place when Hamas launched its brutal assault, killing 1,200 civilians and taking over 200 hostages. Hamas has consistently launched rockets at Israeli civilian communities, while Israel has maintained a defensive posture using the Iron Dome and other air defense systems. International organizations remain silent, failing to condemn the terrorists or speak out for the human rights of Israeli civilians. This silence continued even after the horrors of October 7th, when terrorists raped children in front of their parents, murdered parents in front of their children, and smashed infants against the ground. Slovenia and institutions like the United Nations offered no meaningful response. This ban is a state-level rejection, officially termed persona non grata, a Latin phrase meaning a person who is no longer welcome. Once declared persona non grata, an individual cannot enter the country in question. If they are already within its borders, they must leave and are barred from participating in any state-level functions. Foreign media report that this status now applies to the Israeli ministers mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, the same nations maintain ties with figures like al-Jilani, also known as al-Shara of Syria. They continue to welcome Mahmoud Abbas despite his history of supporting groups like Hamas under a thin veil of democracy. Iran's leadership, once branded the axis of evil in the Middle East, is still granted high-level seats in international forums. We emphasize that these symbolic bans, whether imposed by international humanitarian organizations or by states aligning with extremist sentiments, will not deter Israel from its mission to dismantle radical Islamism and defend the world's only Jewish state. Previously, the International Criminal Court, ICC, issued arrest warrants for former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Israel immediately rejected the verdict and filed an appeal, pointing out that it is not a member of the ICC and never signed its founding treaty. Israel's legal team argued that the ICC overstepped its authority. Several nations, including the United States, condemned the ICC's actions and even imposed sanctions on individuals responsible for issuing the warrants. According to foreign media, the ICC recently reaffirmed its decision after reviewing Israel's appeal. However, 24 hostages remain trapped in Hamas-controlled tunnels. They are being treated like animals. Women have been sexually assaulted, and some hostages have already been executed. Hamas leaders live in luxury in Qatar, indifferent to international law or the ICC's verdicts. Released hostages have publicly asked why organizations like the Red Cross and the United Nations failed to act while they were abused and tortured underground. Adding to the controversy, the Wall Street Journal reported that ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan has been accused of repeatedly forcing sexual intercourse on a staff member. Some reports speculate that his decision to issue arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant may have been an attempt to distract the international community from the allegations against him. If this report helped you see the situation on the ground clearly, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to People's TV, where truth has no agenda, and facts speak louder than spin.
Subscribe us for more details.